addicted to? And what did this world do to you? What'll it take to get you through? And how long has this had a hold on you?
Hello and welcome. I'm here today with my friend Pete, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we think addiction comes from. So, welcome, Pete. How are you doing?
Thanks, Sean. I'm doing great. Happy Easter Sunday to you.
Yeah, you too. It's nice to be on the couch and take a few minutes out to explore this topic here. So, I just wanted to start a little bit by saying I've got some of my own theories. They're not backed by anybody that gives a stamp of approval on it or anything. But I mean, let's face it, I'm not sure that there's anybody that really knows for sure, written in stone, what drives addiction. So we're just going to bounce around some ideas here today.
Sure.
And I wanted to, get your perspective on it.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Sean. First of all, I think, my addiction started, with other people or a lot of other people years ago, age 11, 12, 13, 14, and so on. And I see some of my kids doing the same thing. But I was told a long time ago that it was hereditary. And I thought, well, I don't know about that. But now I actually believe that it is. And the reason I believe that is because I was adopted when I was 11 months old. And I came from a good family, so it had nothing to do with, turmoil on that end of things. I was brought up well with 4 other siblings, a brother and 3 sisters. We went to swimming lessons and high school swim teams and hockey and did everything, and horseback riding and sailing and just came from a really rounded home. But I found out through Facebook, when I was married, my wife and I had searched, my name was Troy Douglas Bryan, not Peter. So we searched that name and came in to find a cousin of mine in Toronto. And she says, I know your mother. So we connected. And the first thing my mother, well, not the first thing, I guess, but one of the things my mother had said, she said, I asked her about my father. And she said he died at the age of 55. My age now, of addiction.
No way.
An alcoholic. So right then and there, when people say it's hereditary, I actually do believe it. And now, being, they say 1 in so many of your kids, I have 3, they say probably 1 will go down the same road you did. And I see it happening now. It worries me, it bothers me, and I obviously, from my hell that I've gone through, I hope to be able to guide them however they can, however I can. So, that's the theory I have for sure. I never, like the promises become true. I never believed it. Been in and out of the room so many times. I would see it with other people, but I thought this will never happen to me. And then, it's kind of like I said before in some meetings that if you told me the house down the street was haunted, unless I saw the ghost myself, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, I know. Sort of the same way. I've got a little bit different perspective on it.
Okay, I'd love to hear.
And mine is kind of differs from that. I'm not, disputing the fact that it may be hereditary. But I think there's some coincidences there, and I'll tell you why.
Sure.
Basically, there seems to be an underlying, commonality that somewhere along the lines in our life path, journey, or childhood, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
We suffered some type of trauma. And that's different for everybody. It might have been emotional. It might have been, but something happened in our life which kind of caused us to say, hey, I'm not comfortable. And this left some kind of a scar, whatever that was. different for everybody. And all of a sudden, when we hit usually our teens, we're introduced to things, smoking, drinking, smoking pot, cigarettes, whatever that is. And we find comfort in it.
Yes.
Because it numbs things out. 100%. And then we're not obsessed with trying to deal with those feelings, because, I mean, I'm a kid. I was born in 1966, so there wasn't a whole lot of touchy-feely. There wasn't counseling. It was
69, agreed. No counseling, no touchy-feely. Dad was dad, stern, and that was that. And mom, well, when you got 5 kids to love and nurture, someone's going to get missed out every now and then.
Yeah. And then, you know, we've gone overboard with today with nobody can hurt anybody's feelings, where we came from the generation, smarten up, get over it.
And get the belt.
Basically. Yeah. So, you know, in my other part of the theory basically is that whenever you find that comfort, whether it be gambling, sex, drugs, whatever it is, the urge to splurge more on that, I think, is a dark energy. We've always heard to get connected to a higher power.
Right.
And so then I started thinking, well, there's got to be the opposite, a negative to that. Because, I mean, you know, you've got day and night, women, men, hot, cold. There's an opposite to almost everything.
Sure.
So I think the opposite to the higher power is the lower power. And I think that energy is what drives addiction.
Sure.
That's what makes sense to me. And when you abuse something, I think you're acting like a conduit for that energy. And as soon as you give it that connection, that is what that je ne sais quoi inside your heart, your soul, that's driving you to do more, because it wants you to kill yourself.
Yeah, it gives you a euphoria and a sense of, like, obviously a high and something that you were lacking. And like you said, a sense of trauma, like a trauma. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And maybe, you know, I mean, divorce, kids go through trauma in that. Absolutely. Maybe my father went through that as well. So maybe push the hereditary side of it apart, but trauma, absolutely, 100%. Being in rehab for 4 months, we had the opportunity 3 times a night to go see this guy named Hank, fantastic psychologist, amazing guy. I signed up for every one of them. And he had pointed out one thing. Well, he had asked me a bunch of questions, and I said I was adopted when I was 11 months old. He goes, aha. I said, what? He said, that's trauma. You've gone through a lot of trauma. And I also told him, you know, gone through an amazing family, well off, loving sisters and brothers and mom and dad. But I always felt alone. Never felt like I fit in. I didn't look like anyone. I didn't act like anyone. I isolated. I was on my own the entire time I lived my childhood. So trauma, he's got a point for sure.
I think so too. I mean, for me, it was really quite different, but I was born in Toronto. My parents taught me to speak French.
Yeah.
That was my first language.
Yeah.
I could not communicate with anybody outside of them.
Yeah.
So, of course, I rebelled. I refused to speak it. And I wanted to speak English because they couldn't understand the fact that I couldn't make a connection with anybody but them.
Right.
And even at 4 years old, who wants to just communicate with their 2 parents? You want to go and play with the other kids.
That's right.
So that in itself, that's why I don't believe like the hereditary thing and the disease thing. Okay, I get it to a certain point, but at the same time, I'm thinking, who do I know that had the perfect upbringing, the Bill Cosby TV show version?
Right. Yeah. Nobody.
I don't think anybody. I don't think rich kids do. I don't think
it exists really.
Yeah. So the fact that they talk about it's a repeating behavior, I think the fact is no one gets a manual for parenting.
Of course not.
And in the end, external forces can cause people to react to different situations in a different way. Like I said, mine was just a communication. And then there were some other things that took place as well.
Sure.
But I mean, out of respect for my siblings, I'm not going to get into those,
particular things. Sure. Sure.
Those situations, because, it's not my entire story to tell.
Right.
That's some of their private. But the point is, it may not necessarily be
a hereditary thing.
And it may not seem catastrophic to somebody else.
Yeah. I always see and hear it's a disease, it's hereditary, and it's almost impossible to stop it until you've reached rock bottom. For me, those three things for sure happened. Again, I tell people in meetings, even rock bottom has a basement, and I found it, and it's real. So,
well, we do. I mean, I remember mine, and I describe it as God sitting on your chest and asking you if you've had enough.
Yeah.
But basically, part of my theory also is the fact that once that negative energy has made a connection, you do need the connection to other people because we've isolated.
Yes.
We need a connection to a higher power, something bigger than ourselves, whatever that is.
Sure.
And, I describe it as like a battery.
Okay.
When a battery loses its charge, and I always think of like that Ever Ready commercial, the bunny.
The bunny.
And when it winds down, right? And when you wind down and you have no energy, you're more susceptible to me.
Sure.
I think because of that negative energy is waiting there telling you want that cigarette. It'll pick you up. You want that drink.
100%. It'll pick you up. Absolutely.
It's dangling the carrot.
Yeah.
You want that.
Sure.
You want that line. You want whatever that thing, because it'll pick you up and make you feel better.
Right.
And it's always there enticing you, waiting, because it's tricking you into thinking that that's going to solve your problems. And we all know that it would for about 30 seconds. Yeah. And then after that, it's all downhill because we can't stop.
That's right.
And I believe that's part of the reason why it also says that no human power can beat it. Because how can you fight something like an energy that you can't see?
Yeah.
You can't grab it. There is, you have to kind of believe in the other portion of it and able to make connections with people.
Right. 100%.
With it.
Yeah.
And then abstaining, which, without the combination of
the others,
whatever your recipe is for success.
Sure.
And that's what we're going to explore.
Yeah.
Is what successful people do. How do you stay sober? And how do you fight those demons on a day-to-day basis? Because I've heard people of 20 years losing it. And
so have I, yeah.
And you and I have gone to people's funerals.
Yes, we have.
Right?
Yeah, we have.
And that's no joke. I mean,
it's scary. And these people were, one in particular was so into the AA and said, there's no therapist I'll never forget this. There's no therapy, no rehab, no other source of help that helped him but the program. And then all of a sudden, when he slipped so far that he ended up dead. And that scared me and a lot of other people, sure. And I remember one person in particular in the program, I'll never forget this. You're just one drink away from death. And I thought, holy smokes. And I dabbled with that, and he's right. When I relapsed, a combination of things that happened, but I'm sure glad that I ended up in rehab and not in a box, close to a box. But thank God, higher power, whatever, that said, hey man, you've got a lot to teach. You've got a lot to learn. You've got, 3 beautiful children. Read them as much as you can. I know they're at the ages where dad who, and that's okay. And they're not far away. They're close to me, but close but far. But yeah, for me, that was an awakening. And I think a lot of people in this program, and it's funny, at my age, 55, there's a lot of people in there, older, not the younger crowd, but the older crowd that finally hit that rock bottom and said, enough's enough. I can't do this anymore. What's my alternative? And that's where we go to the program. And believe it or not, that program works. It does work.
Well, I mean, yeah, we've got to be careful that we're, when we refer to a 12-step. Oh,
whatever works for you.
Yeah, because I'm going to explore some other options there as well, because, some people can find sobriety in different ways.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be any one certain way.
Correct. Right.
But the thing is, when we're talking about this too, what comes to mind is we had our, demons from our generation. There's always a certain aspect to the generation. Right. And then now our kids, I see, are repeating certain patterns. And I'm not exactly sure, I'm divorced, so are you. So there's some similarities there.
Sure.
And I'm not exactly sure, everything that my kids have been through. They don't always share everything.
And nor do mine.
But the fact of the matter is, I sat them down. I told them, you're more susceptible. Yeah, it's not going to happen to me, Dad. Don't worry, Dad. Whatever. And there they are doing their things, right?
When we were their age, we had stuff, but we didn't have a lot of stuff, and we didn't see a lot of people with stuff. And nowadays, everyone's got cell phones, everyone's got BMWs, and everyone's got this, and everyone's got that, and everyone wants to, be like the Joneses next door. And when your kids, I think some of that is the trauma that they can't have all that.
And the social media.
Sure. It's so bad. TikTok and all these other things, social media in general. My God, it's so distracting and disturbing for that generation. It kind of makes my heart broken to see that, because we never had any of that.
Well, it's our fault. We gave them the electronic devices way too young.
100%.
It acted like somewhat of a distraction and a babysitter when we were driving, or we wanted to make dinner, or we needed a little bit of a respite or a pause or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And then we found out, I don't even know if we really know the full extent of the monster that we've created, but here we are. We didn't do it on purpose.
No, of course not.
But here we are. There was, like I said, there's no template to being a parent.
No, there's not. And like now, most parents are divorced. The divorce rate is through the roof. When your grandparents were married, that saying, through better or worse, meant something. Now, I tell my daughter, so when you get married, it's not going to be for better or worse. It's going to be for better or I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You know,
people don't put up with half as much.
as they used to. So,
And I'm not sure that's a better thing. You know, I mean, I can see the point of not staying if you're not happy, but I think it's too easy to just bail out. And
absolutely.
you know, I mean, I did it. I'm guilty of it myself. And
Oh, so am I. 100%. I mean, we both, you know, my wife and I at the time, we just said, okay, we tried therapy, a therapy session. That didn't go over well. That was a one-sided therapy session that I just, I thought was the wrong choice. But yeah, I don't know how our kids are going to, you know, when they're in 20s and 30s. I mean, nobody's getting married in their 20s anymore, or even 30s. You know, late 30s, I think, is probably where they're going to go with that. They want all the stuff first and then the marriage after. So, you know, when parents and grandparents had 12 kids and my parents had 5 kids and, you know, and now it's like 3 kids or 2 kids, pretty soon it's going to be 1. 1 is going to be too much, but you're going to do it anyway because your parents did it and your grandparents did it and so on. So I have a strong feeling about what the future holds for our kids in addiction. And like I said, I have 3. My theory was 1, that I had a feeling she was going to go down that path, but now it's not. I have the feeling that she is actually one looking at me and going, I won't do that. And she's actually the smart one. My youngest, unfortunately, I see already going down that path. So hopefully he grows out of it. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But once you're addicted, it's a roller coaster ride from hell.
well, when you're saying the smart one, I mean,
Oh, they're all intelligent. They're in their own ways, for sure. They're all intelligent kids. But she's looked at me and said, I'm looking at dad and saying, I don't want to go down that path, because she knows it well. I don't hide anything. I ask her, what do you want to know? I'll tell you anything you want to know. And we sat down not long ago and had the long discussion of, here's what happened to me at your age and even younger and through my life. And here's me at 55. I want something better for you. I think she has struggles. I mean, she's 19. Kids are in their teens. They all have struggles for sure. But I think when we were that age, we had different kinds of struggles because we didn't have the social media. We didn't have the iPads, the phones, you know, all this other stuff.
but that being said, I've learned Sean can't learn from Pete's mistakes, and Pete can't learn from Sean's mistakes.
No.
And our kids can't learn from our mistakes either. They have to make their own. Even though it's painful to watch, and you may say, I told you, don't do that.
I won't say that, actually. I just, you know what? I just say, I'm here for you. Reach out when you want to.
And that's what I say. But I also sat my kids down and say, look, I told you the best way to deal with stuff is not to start. So if you do, for example, start vaping or whatever it is,
Yeah.
now I will be here for you, but that monkey's on your back. This is now yours to deal with.
Right.
I can't do much except support you.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and nag.
Exactly.
Because, you know, who wants to hear that?
That's right.
The action has taken place.
Yeah.
And now it's their journey, even though it's a painful.
To watch.
Yeah. I mean, as a parent, you don't wish that on your kids. You don't wish it on your worst enemy.
That's right.
But just getting back to the addiction portion, when you were saying that, you know, when you were in the counseling and you were 11 and you were adopted. So
11 months, yeah.
Or 11 months,
Yeah,
rather.
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just taken aback a little bit by thinking like that had that much of an effect. I would have thought that young of an age, you really wouldn't.
You wouldn't know or you wouldn't realize, but until you are old enough to realize it's not so much the adoption part of it. It's not being like feeling that you're a part of the family that adopted you. You don't look like them. You don't act like them. You don't do the things they do. And it's just, it seems to be you're the outsider in an inside family. It's interesting.
Even when you're that young?
100%. Well, not 11 months old. I mean, when you start to, 6, 7, 8, 9, you start seeing it. And then you start thinking, okay, well, I'm not like them.
Did you know that, or did they?
100%. Absolutely.
They hadn't told you that you were adopted at that point.
Oh yeah, they told me as soon as I could basically walk, talk, and understand it.
Oh, they did.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then that may give you cause to.
Yeah, I lashed out. I'm like, "You're not my mom. You're not my dad." I was, the terror child. And sometimes I think they probably wish they had being able to return me to the foster,
So do you think that was a driving factor?
Yeah, I really do. And there's a book out about adoption and theories behind it and so on. And this therapist had, as soon as I told him that, he said, light bulb went off in his head. And there's some serious trauma behind that. For a lot of people, I have a cousin, they didn't tell him at all until he was married. And he basically was in such trauma after that, he never spoke to his parents again. My parents said, we will tell you the minute you understand. And when you want to know who they are, at the age of 16 and you want to reach out, absolutely, 100%. You do that. So
I guess we'd never know, but it's interesting when you're saying that your biological
father at my age was dead from alcohol.
So you'll never know, had you stayed with him, if you would have followed that same pattern.
Right.
Or the fact that you were removed, and I'm guessing that your adoptive parents weren't.
No, they're not. Oh my God, they're not alcoholics at all or anything. My mom would have a glass of wine once a month. My dad would go out with the boys to the Elks Club once or twice a month, but no addictions whatsoever. And they stayed married and they were in love until my mom passed away. And it's interesting. She was healthy as a horse and she died of blood disease. And at 71. And my dad, who wasn't so healthy, heavyweight and so on, and still eats hot dogs at 84 years old and Kraft dinner. Yeah, he's 84 and he's never looked so good.
And you have a good relationship with him.
Yeah, I do. I'm a little embarrassed. I haven't reached out so much after the relapse and shoving, and putting myself, I shouldn't say shoving, putting myself into rehab. I told my sisters and my brother, and they said, best thing you ever did. And I agree. I had to get my head back into the game of life and not Pete's pity party, as my ex-wife would call it.
Well, that'll be for a different show.
We'll have a lot to talk about then.
Okay. Well, it gives a little bit more perspective because we're going to explore this some more.
Agreed.
I just find it so interesting to find out that you were in a different environment.
Right.
But from what we know, the same outcome.
Correct.
And yet, I'm not really sure blame is the proper word.
No.
But you felt different. And like I said, if you had been with your father and been experiencing that from day to day, would that have been a learned behavior? Was it just a seed that was already there?
Right. Or would I have gone down the same path as him?
And we'll never know that.
No.
But it just seems to me that there's more to it.
Absolutely.
Than just this hereditary gene. You were born to be an addict. Yeah. I'm not sure that I buy that. But like I said, I just want to explore the different avenues. And there's always that one underlying factor for me is we have some sort of trauma, whether it's you didn't feel like you fit in,
Right.
I couldn't communicate,
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's the catalyst to say, hey, I found this.
Yeah.
Wow.
It makes me feel better.
And now I
then,
don't have to feel anymore.
boom.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's it. That's 100% it. And then all of a sudden, it takes over. And that's the scary part. It takes over. You do it. Like when I was in my teens, I would do it. But then all of a sudden, for a year, I wouldn't. Or I'd do it in university. And then the next year, I wouldn't. And then.
But self-destruction
Yeah.
is a comfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we
100%.
want to be
Yeah.
obliterated.
Yeah.
Because we somehow, like you said, the control aspect is gone. I think the energy's just driving you.
Right.
Because, and I haven't figured out that part, but whatever it is makes it stronger or it gets kicks, whatever it is.
You need it more and more and more to get that euphoria and that feeling.
Well, and I think it drives you.
Sure it does. 100% it does.
So, it's trying for you to kill yourself.
Yeah. And it was very close for me. Really close. When you've got 3 doctors in the hospital and you're there for 2 weeks and they said, listen, Mr. Carey, honest to God, if you had drank one more bottle, you'd be in a box. And I thought, okay, I got a chance here. Take advantage of it. Do something about this. And here I am, May 22nd, 1 year. And I'm just going to keep going because you know what? I like I said, somebody down the street had told me that house was haunted and say, nope, I don't believe you until I saw the ghost. Well, I'm seeing reality, clarity, and happiness. And it shows in work. It shows in waking up in the morning, going to sleep at night, being able to communicate with my kids for whatever trauma or issues or situations they're going through. Before, if I was in active addiction, none of that. It would just be an absolute disaster. So I'm happy to be here talking about it. And just happy to be having a smile on my face today. It's great.
Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Congrats. That's all the time we've got for today. But you will definitely be coming back, and we're going to explore this.
We'd love to, Sean. Thank you. Happy
Thanks
Easter to you, buddy.
Take care.